Southern border officials have cleared the massive migrant encampment beneath a bridge in Del Rio, Texas. At one point, nearly 15,000 migrants, many of them Haitian, were living at the encampment, looking for a permanent home in the U.S. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle criticized the Biden administration's handling of the situation. CBS News' Natalie Brand has more.
The dangerously crowded border encampment in Del Rio, where nearly 15,000 migrants, mostly Haitians, had gathered over the past week, was empty on Friday. Fitterson John Vare told CBS News he crossed through 11 countries and says he fears being sent back to Haiti.
There's no life for them, he says. I want to cry when I see people in the news deported. There's no life for them there.
The Biden administration says border officers have encountered around 30,000 migrants in Del Rio since earlier this month. Homeland Security says more than 12,000 asylum seekers will go before an immigration judge. About 8,000 migrants have decided to return to Mexico voluntarily. Around 5,000 are still being processed by DHS. More than 2,300 have been deported under a pandemic-era health rule, despite growing criticism of the policy.
It is important to note that Title 42 is applicable and has been applicable to all irregular migration during this pandemic. It is not specific to Haitian nationals or the current situation.
Friday morning, President Biden weighed in on the investigation into Border Patrol agents on horseback aggressively dispersing migrants earlier this week.
Of course, I take responsibility. I'm president, but it was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over and people being strapped. It's outrageous.
Del Rio's mayor, Bruno Lozano, urged the federal government to do a better job of listening to local officials, saying he warned of a looming crisis back in February. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
To better understand the situation, I'd like to bring in CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Camilo, thanks for being here. So, when most people are thinking of migrants crossing over the southern border, they assume that they came from Latin America. How did so many Haitian migrants end up in Del Rio, Texas?
Hi, Lana. Department of Homeland Security officials, including Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, have blamed this rapid increase in Haitian migrants arriving to the U.S.-Mexico border on misinformation and disinformation. Officials have said that smuggling networks are telling Haitian migrants across Latin America that the U.S. will grant them legal status and work permits if they come here. This is because the Biden administration earlier this summer extended temporary protected status to Haitians already in the U.S. This protects them from deportation and allows them to work legally, but it only benefits Haitians who were in the U.S. as of July 29th, so it does not benefit newcomers. However, this message has been spreading across Latin America, according to DHS officials, and it is prompting Haitians, not just from Haiti, but those who have been living in Brazil, Chile, and other South American nations, to journey throughout South America and Central America and Mexico to come here to the U.S.-Mexico border. Since September 9th, we've seen more than 30,000 migrants, many of them Haitians, cross the Del Rio sector of the U.S.-Mexico border. We saw pictures of thousands of them living in squalid conditions underneath this camp in Del Rio, which has now been cleared. But again, this is why officials believe that many have come here because of misinformation and disinformation. And we know many continue to come here to the U.S. In August, for example, Lana, authorities in Panama encountered more than 15,000 Haitians near the Darien Gap. This is the roadless jungle that connects that country with Colombia. So this is a sign that more Haitians are trying to make their way to the U.S.
The administration cleared out that encampment by allowing some of those Haitian migrants to seek asylum in the U.S., but most of them were deported back to Haiti. As you explained, all of them faced a long journey. Many of them actually lived in Latin America for a long time before they crossed over into Del Rio. And just recently, we're covering the devastation from the earthquake and the political turmoil facing the Haitian people. So what happens to these migrants after they're deported? What are they facing in Haiti?
So for context, Lana, in just 6 days since Sunday, the U.S. expelled more than 2,300 Haitians to Haiti under Title 42. This is the public health order that was first enacted during the Trump administration, but that President Biden's administration has kept, citing the Delta variant and concerns about the pandemic. Many of these Haitian families, all of them actually, and adults, were not allowed to seek asylum because under this order, U.S. officials are effectively allowed to suspend asylum and immigration processing. So these migrants have been all expelled without a chance to have an immigration court hearing or a screening with an asylum officer. This has obviously concerned advocates who are also worried about conditions in Haiti. This is a massive expulsion operation, and it is happening in a country where deportations from the U.S. were actually halted just a month ago, Lana, because of that deadly earthquake that killed more than 2,000 people. And advocates say that conditions in Haiti, the crippling poverty in that country, the widespread insecurity, the recovery efforts from the earthquake, and other factors like gang violence should prompt the Biden administration to halt these deportation flights. But that has not stopped officials from continuing to expel people because they want to discourage other would-be migrants from Haiti from journeying here to the U.S.-Mexico border.
So, Camilo, if so many thousands were deported without any level of asylum hearings, how did the administration decide that some people were allowed to come into the U.S. and petition for asylum, but the vast majority weren't?
That's a critical question. We know that 2,300 Haitians have been deported to Haiti, but we know that thousands others have been allowed to stay in the U.S. and to make a case for asylum. They were processed under regular immigration laws. Most of them are being given a notice to appear in immigration court and are being allowed to travel to their respective destinations across the U.S., places like Miami and New York, where there are large communities of Haitians. And they obviously have met a completely different fate than those who have been expelled to Haiti. But the administration really hasn't laid out a guideline and any rules on how it is determining who gets to stay and who is being expelled. But they have said that they usually take into account certain vulnerabilities when they think about processing migrants under Title 42. So they usually try not to expel people who they deem to be vulnerable. These could include pregnant women, families with young children, or other asylum seekers who may face danger and who have medical conditions. But there are no clear guidelines, and that is a concern, obviously, for advocates, but also for Republicans who want the administration to be deporting more people to Haiti because they don't want to see these migrants released into the U.S.
Camilo, you mentioned young kids, and I think for many people, that image of that young girl nearly trampled by a horse is still in their minds. An investigation is underway into the Border Patrol agents that were seen on horseback and their treatment of those migrants. What's the latest on that? What can you tell us?
Sure. So as we have discussed previously, the Department of Homeland Security has launched an internal investigation into these incidents of Border Patrol agents on horseback aggressively chasing and dispersing migrants, many of them believed to be from Haiti, in Del Rio, Texas. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, said that this internal probe should conclude by the end of this coming week. And very importantly, he said that he expects to make the report's findings available to the public. So we could see the findings of this report by this week. He also said that the Border Patrol agents at the center of this investigation have been placed on administrative duties and that they are not being permitted to interact with migrants. So the administration has taken swift action when it comes to this incident, and top officials, including the Vice President, Kamala Harris, have come out pretty strongly to voice their concerns about the images that they saw. You saw the president also said that people will, quote, pay for what was done allegedly in those incidents. But what advocates could argue is that, yes, the administration is acting very swiftly to deal with this public relations nightmare, really, that was provoked by these incidents, but it has not addressed the fact that it is continuing to use this Trump-era policy, Title 42, to expel families with children, to expel single adults, without allowing them to seek asylum, despite the administration's promises to reverse all these Trump administration policies that they said were draconian and, quote, inhumane.
Hence why the Biden administration is being criticized by both parties. Camilo, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Lana.